What's going on, everybody? Joe Mann here, Client Success Manager with Scaling with Systems, Scaling Initiative, and Scaling Partnerships. I'm here with Mr. Robbie Cannon. Robbie, say hello to the people at home.
What's up?
How are we doing today? How's everything going?
Doing good. I'm doing good. Snazzy here in Tampa.
You're looking great with the college shirt, sir.
Thank
you.
Are
you ready to jump in and give some information?
Yeah, let's go for it.
Sweet. So, Robbie, just for everybody watching, would you mind just telling me a little bit about what you do, who you serve, and how you specifically generate revenue right now?
All right. So I run sales at scale.io. We build and scale sales teams for coaches, consultants, agencies, pretty much any short cycle online B2B service provider. Right now, we're getting a lot of revenue primarily through emails. We just launched ads, which I know you guys have been spearheading, Joe. Ads are looking phenomenal, 5% click-through rate, a little bit early on though. And we do get a lot from referrals as a driver for our business. Now that's picked up over time. How do we help people? 3 months. We do a coaching consulting hybrid. We place the reps. We help them scale their company. And we've generated over 5 million in the past 12 months doing so.
Love that, man. Now, before jumping into our programs, right, Scaling with Systems, because you were an SWS client that came into SI that also went to SP. What have you tried before? What were some of the bigger challenges, bottlenecks, roadblocks that you were experiencing?
So prior to joining SWS, right, Joe, I did corporate sales, selling the tech sector, enterprise. What I would do prior to joining even SWS, same thing I did my sales role, emails, calls, pretty much whatever gets people on the phone. I was really big in LinkedIn back in the day. What I noticed is being in enterprise sales, I would extend my sales cycle and I'd overthink a lot because going from traditional job to starting your own business to scaling I would like to think a successful company at this point, you overthink a lot. So before going to SWS, I was just always testing marketing messages, offers, trying to see what people want. And I know that's something we worked on extensively. When I joined SWS, what was kind of my point was got good client results, worked with a lot of 7 and 8 figure business owners at the time. I was sitting there wondering, okay, something's not clicking. My marketing brain is not clicking. How can I go? Was watching Ravi when I was doing a sales role, especially his like old LinkedIn videos of using Sales Navigator and all that. Ended up doing the program on my birthday, ironically, a year ago in a few weeks. Ended up going through SWS, cranked out the offer, got the blinders on the horse like you guys had, ended up ascending to SI, which was more, the management side of things. Was able to build a pretty kick-ass team, if I like to think so myself. Throughout the whole process, though, what I found immense value in was the way of thinking, not necessarily anything revolutionary, right? Everybody knows ads, outbound, referrals, organic, they all work in some capacity. Where I struggled a lot at growing such a fast-paced business was how do I decide what that next step is? And how do I actually get through this bottleneck? Because previously what I would do, and you guys called me out for it a lot, say, we're at 50K a month, 75K a month, 100K a month. What do I do next? And I would sit there and I'd contemplate too much about what do we do next instead of doing the smallest lever, what you guys always mention, and figure out what's the easiest way for me to solve something rather than building some complex solution, hiring a ton of people, or, maybe it's the offer, maybe it's that. Just dialing in and putting like the blinders on myself and learning how to train myself to do that, I think was the most valuable thing throughout all of this.
Awesome, dude. Appreciate all that. You've been through, like I said, scaling with systems up to scaling initiative. What are some of the more valuable aspects of the program that maybe for people on the outside looking in that they could benefit from?
So in terms of both programs, so we can start off with scaling with systems. I think the main thing, obviously scaling with systems, the front end, when you guys get onboarded into the program and seeing that customer success experience and experiencing it from the consumer standpoint, I would say that is the most valuable, along with the pre-call and post-call nurtures you guys set up for people. I think that's something a lot of our clients struggle with that we've had to solve. You guys, beat the horse before it arrives and do that all for everybody. In terms of SI, where I think the value is obviously the events, awesome, met some pretty valuable people like Thomas, Miguel, all of them are really close now, but the events with Ravi, seeing what you guys are actively testing, because what I've noticed, like a lot of people are, hey, do this, do that, course content on this, but there's not any actual, hey, this is what we're currently doing. Because as the market changes, as people change, as business changes, stuff phases out. I think something that came up, something you guys spoke about at the Mastermind in Vail, then to Medellin, seeing the change of like, hey, this is our test. Here's the data we pulled back. It was something with the meeting book, how far you could book out for your meetings, and actually having data on that. It's like, hey, here's what we actively tested. Here's what like the war results. Here's how the battle ended. Being able to see that in real time, I think is the most valuable, because while there is value looking 6, 12, 2 years, 3 years back, stuff changes so fast in business. Seeing how you guys act and roll out new offers, roll out new marketing, test new things, and applying that into our business, kind of like a monkey see, monkey do framework, I thought is the most valuable in SI. In terms of everything else, just the experience, I think you guys do a phenomenal job with the CS, with like customer success as a whole. So being able to pretty much drag and drop a lot of things you guys do, frameworks, coaching, how do you actually lead people? How do you actually lead team members? And seeing that from the flip side and then also installing in our business, I think that is the most valuable between, I guess, scaling with systems as a whole.
Appreciate that, man. Then let's look at what some of those valuable things we're able to do for you. So before coming to us, where were you revenue-wise?
Revenue-wise, I was floating between 30,000 a month, give or take on the month. I wouldn't consider myself having a business though. I think it was very, hey, sales guy, I got into sales consulting. I would like to think I'm good at it. And it was very like ping pong. At the time I was doing email, LinkedIn, cold calling, which isn't like anything out of the ordinary, but is very like, let me throw 1,000 emails out into the ether and not track any data on it. So like, what is actually driving the most revenue? When we came in, you guys were like, hey, cut LinkedIn. That's not where your money is. Cold calls, they do help, but still just send more emails, make sure you're doing something that actually moves the lever. In terms of meetings we're getting around 5 to 10 a week, which was solid, right? Not necessarily the most qualified though. And that's something, especially when we first came in, it was how do we fit the one pager, make sure people that are coming to us are actually people we want to work with and people who we can't help. Then now I know we've had a couple very large days, 30K days, 40K days, 50K days. We're scaling well into the multi 7-figure mark in terms of these next few months. We've had a couple of good 6-figure months, but where I see us going, I think in terms of these next few months, especially with the systems we have in place and the hiring funnel, I think this is where the real fun begins in the business. I can see it's probably 6 months from now, 12 months from now, hitting very high multi 6-figure months, having the infrastructure there. Pretty much the groundwork's there. Now we're just waiting for the ads to do their magic.
It'll be a good time. Just for clarity's sake, one question for you. You had mentioned when you were coming in, you were hovering around 30. What was your best month with us since?
So our best month was the 130 that I know I sent over to you. That was a fantastic month. Blessed to be able to hit that. Our highest day so far was 53,000, if I remember correctly. In the multi $50,000 days. Had a $40,000 day 2 months ago. We've been absolutely crushing it. Of course, those days are fun. People like to talk about growing their business and hitting these fancy numbers. One thing I'd like to say is, like, you told me, hey, you're going to have these big days. It's all going to like click one day and you're going to go off and to the races, which we definitely have. The numbers don't mean anything, right? It's the transition you told me of, okay, cool, the numbers there, but now for every dollar that you make, it's like, you got to fulfill on that, not running a fly by night business, which like education space, agency space is kind of a common trend. And I think even from your coaching specifically, Joe, having, you looking over my shoulders like, hey, you made $50,000, so what? And just having that complete frame switch of, we all start a business to have these big days, make fun, make money, impact people. But having somebody be like, hey, this is just a starting point. I think because I am, been in the game for a few years now at this point, just having you being like, hey, this is arbitrarily nothing, but in a good way.
Improving their perspective. As
yes.
We would say. Yes.
Yes.
So one more question for you, Robbie. Appreciate all of that, man. What would you say to the people watching at home that are considering working with us?
I have 3 things. Speaking from experience, dive into ads a lot sooner. Makes your life hell of a lot easier. 2, don't be afraid to hop into a program, mastermind, whatever. I've been with you guys for almost over a year now, coming up. There's a reason why this was the second program I've ever invested in, the longest I've ever stayed. Just besides the coaching itself, seeing how high level people operate, whether it's lifestyle, fitness, how they run their business, changes you not just now when you're in the program, but when you go off into the future, whenever that time is. Then 3 would be, if you're skeptical, like, hey, what is there anything fishy about this? I've never really invested. I see Ravi's been around forever. I don't give testimonials. This is my only testimonial I've ever given for somebody. So hopefully that speaks volume that, hey, Robby here saying join. I think it's awesome. At least get a call with their team, go over their process, see if it's a good fit, if it's not a good fit, just as much as people are gun-ho on selling. What I've noticed from a scaling with systems team, full side, there's not a lot of pressure because they do operate on a very clean and concise basis of, hey, can we actually help you? If yes, here's how we can. And they're almost qualifying you more than you're qualifying them as a company. I think that makes the sales process a lot, less pressure on both parties.
I appreciate that, man. Thank you. So, everybody, Robby Cannon, founder of sales@scale.io. Check him out. Does some pretty amazing things in the marketplace. Going to be doing some pretty even more amazing things in the time to come. So, Robby, thank you so much for taking the time to do this, man. And we'll talk soon.
Thank you, man.